Hey everyone. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the events leading up to me leaving Colorado to come live in Montana. And one of the things was making the connection with some Native American people and going to their Vision Quest ceremony this summer right before I came here. So today I thought I would share as I'm coming down the highway, because one thing I was told at the Vision Quest is when I get back to Denver, then I will receive blessing, which I think is Rosie Posey bringing me here. Now, this is the center, or the heart of Kalispell. That's at least the county center. I think that's like the courthouse, and then next door is the jailhouse for Flathead County. So, kind of like in Denver, around our Civic Center area, we've got those curvy roads, on Colfax and 14th. But instead, this is our road that goes north and south. I kind of think of the portion north of here as also our equivalent to Denver's Broadway, right? And then this is where we're leaving the part of Kalispell that's just like really crisscross streets, Anyways, this is where it brings me. It's to Montana, and by making all these connections here to this house I'm staying in. Because, I've been reflecting, ever since Rosie passed that, what the hell am I doing in Montana? And, should I plan on staying or leaving has been a really difficult choice, because I do feel alone up here, don't have anybody I hang out with every day. Like in Denver, I used to always have somebody around me. I used to have people come into my house and stuff like that. So I thought today I would like to share, I like to thank the blessing that I received, that I was foretold. So that's where it ties in with Rosie Posey, who I met in Visionary State in 1982. So I've done a lot of videos talking about how I met Bill Lieb there, because I had most of the vision seemed to be about him, but only at the beginning. It was like Rosie a few times, that I got to meet her, and then the Visionary State, it seemed like she was a friend of my mom's. And so it took me many years to figure that out. So after I met Rosie, I realized where I knew her from. So we met in such a way that we were able to just make friends real nice and easy. But when she moved away, we lost contact, and I didn't have any way to call her and all that stuff. So it took me till 2002 to get back in touch. And then a few years later, so 2005, was kind of a rough year for me, and I was in touch with Rosie. Big truck going by. I'll let them go. And then, 2005, I was talking to Rosie on the phone, and that's when she invited me to come to Montana. And she talked a little bit about the earth changes that are coming. And I felt like part of why I needed to move here was to be able to deal with earth changes, or to be able to prepare for it, or something like this. And she told me that I really got to look into is Native American prophecies. So I bought a book I found a perfect one at the bookstore too. It's called Native American Prophecies, and it had stuff from all kinds of different tribes. And two of my favorite tribes to read about were the Hopi Indian and the Lakota. And so 4 years later, I ended up actually making friends with some Lakota people and going to their Vision Quest ceremony. Now, I knew this young guy named Elias for a little bit already, and I would say maybe 2008ish, maybe that's when we ran into each other again. He was just coming up the sidewalk one day as I was getting off of work, and he had a handmade dream catcher in his hand, and it was my favorite color. It was black with a little red trim on it. And he says, he makes these dream catchers, and then he just gives them to people that he sees along the way that he feels like they belong to. And so today, it was my dream catcher that I was going to receive. So very perfect, so we had a good chat, and I told him, it's a good thing I ran into you, because I don't know, I've been dealing with going into Visionary State, and it's kind of driving me crazy, and I really need help. And I realized that if I can find a Lakota medicine man, that maybe it's a good place to go, because I learned about the Lakota people and how seriously they take it if you go into a Visionary State, or what you learn in a dreamscape. So I'm going to share what's around me. window down because I got no air conditioner. So that's Blacktail Mountain over here. We used to live up on the side of that for a little bit. And then if you look out this window, you know, if you can see where the Mission Mountains come down and it turns into hills, that's the Big Fork area. But that big toothy mountain range over there, that's the Swan Mountain range. So between the Mission Mountains and the Swan Mountains is the Swan River. And so at Big Fork, the Swan River comes down and it meets with the Flathead River, and that's why they call it Big Fork. Has absolutely nothing to do with an eating utensil. It's that two big rivers meet right there in Big Fork, and it's a very powerful kind of energy. In fact, I think there's some place down there that belongs to the electric company, and they use the dam to get energy, you know. So they produce energy down at the dam, and that's why it's called Electric Avenue, because it ties in with the facility that belongs to the electric company. Anyways, I think that was my blessing. So that's where I moved when we first got here, and I thought maybe if you could see it out the window, that's where my blessing brought me. Oh. It's not that hot out. I think I can roll up my window a little bit, you know, and talk about the subject of thinking about moving to Montana and time to get ready for earth changes. Now, meeting Elias and telling him, you know, I really need to find a Lakota medicine man, and he just happened to be working with one who lives up in Pine Ridge. And so the following spring, I was really going through another rough area where, like, I got fired from my job at Applebee's, and I was, you know, I think I was ready to do something exciting. So maybe I can show you out the side here as we're talking that there was an event down in Arizona where there's going to be like an elders council. So they're going to have elders from all around, like mostly North American, some South American, you know, indigenous elders and medicine people would all come here. And they were also going to have a youth council meeting that I should participate in. So that sounded exciting to me. And I went down to Arizona with the Elias, and we camped out at Dead Horse Campground south of Sedona, I think near Cottonwood. Okay, so that's a story in itself. Being down there in Cottonwood and meeting Uncle David, as that's what Elias calls him, Uncle David, is a Native American, or is called Lakota medicine man. So while I was down there, though, I think I must have had a couple visionary slips, you know, because we're down at the campfire, and we're passing a feather, and the feather went to some lady with a guitar, and she seemed like she was a professional singer, man, you know, and I didn't know who she was. But then later on, I was sitting around a fire with some friends that I made there, and the one friend said, you know, someone's going to put you in touch with an old friend of yours named Amelia Bentley. And he said, yeah, she's going to give you his phone number, you know, and I'm like, who's Amelia Bentley? Is that the lady playing the guitar around the fire earlier? He didn't say yeah or no, but somehow it just sounded like somebody famous, you know, like Amelia Bentley. That just has such a nice ring to it, you know. And so I thought maybe he was talking about the lady with the guitar that could sing really good. So anyways, I kind of forgot about that conversation. And so we did our visit, and I met a really cool Hopi lady down there. So we did some type of a healing meditation. And I also met up with some people down at camp, and they did some healing meditation with me as well. And I felt like they really did help open up my psyche and get me ready for what's next. Now, you guys, if you can see out the window there, you can see where those hills come down at the end of the missions, and that's the Big Fork area, so I can see that all the way coming up. And then as you're coming up this way, as we're heading into Summers, you see where the highway kind of cuts between the big mountain and that little tiny hill. I think that is so cute. What a cute little hill. So I'm going to kind of take it easy and let people pass me if I want. That way we have more time to look at the beauty around here. Anyways, Yeah, out the window if there's no one alongside me, huh? Why not? So there's some interesting people down there. I didn't really stay in touch with anybody except for the Lakota family that I connected with, you know. Now you're seeing that place where you come down, where those little hills at the end, and then there's just a big gap. That's where the Swan River comes down by Big Fork. Now, there's some traffic coming. We'll look up this way. Alright, now I went over and met a lady named Janice, and I stayed over there a while, and I had to tell her about my whole visionary issue. And she happened to be somebody that just loves the Buddhist meditation and all of that philosophy. So we kind of connected over that, you know. I mean, she's kind of a medicine person of sorts, kind of a minor level, but very psychically gifted. And she educated me a little bit about the ancient Pleiadian connection we have here on Earth. That is nothing new. She says the Pleiadians have been with us all along. And so those are our near relatives. So we're part of a star system called the Pleiades. And we're like the youngest planet with human-like life on it. So there are other planets in a star system called the Pleiades, and they're more advanced. But it's as if, you know, talking to her, you know, brought a little bit of confirmation about the Pleiadians. Yeah. Moving. Last chance to see the mountains before we go up here. Actually, we go have a few glimpses of the mountains, and so this is a mountain road going along the side of the lake, and it's really because the mountains just come right into the lake, so the whole road here is just like a mountain road, except that it's along the lake sometimes. And so anyways, me and Elias got back together at camp, and then we drove back to Colorado. And on the way back to Colorado, we stopped off at the Four Corners. So I got to stand in 4 states all at one time. Woo! And then the whole way back, I swear to God, Elias kept going on and on about, you know, when you get around the Lakota people, you might come under surveillance by the feds, the undercover feds. You know, keep a good eye on the Lakota people, and they want to investigate people who get involved with them. So that was kind of eerie, you know. So he kept pointing them out different vehicles, telling me, oh, that might be a Fed, that might be a Fed, you know. So I listen open-mindedly. You know, he could be right, he could be wrong. So we're passing through summer, so this is a place to go swimming. A couple places you can stop off and swim down here. Now, that's where we're going from the Four Corners to Pogoza Springs. That's when I had a visionary slip, and he showed me where Ted lived, where I would go hang out a year in the future. So I did another video about that last time. I did a trip like this, let me look out the window at the lake. I showed you a hiking trail, and I talked about how I was introduced to Ted. But that was the trip back from Arizona. And it's such an amazing visionary slip because it happened on the highway right while I was driving. And my passenger educated me on where I was and where I was going to be. So super exciting. And then I got to Big Fork and met Ted eventually. So anyways, back to the trip from Arizona to Denver. You know, we make it back to Denver, and my roommate was super jealous of me and Elias because she tried to make it her boyfriend, and he got tired of her, you know. She just wasn't really clicking with his lifestyle, and he was ready to move on. And so she got mad and asked me to move out, and I had to put all my things in storage. And then I went to stay with my friend John before I moved to Montana, by the way. But I put all my stuff in storage, and then I went up to the Lakota reservation, and they had the the vision quest. Well, anyways, back to I almost forgot to tell you that back to we got back from Denver. We got back from Arizona to Denver. And that's when a couple more important, really important things had happened. I had a couple of visionary slips where Ted was coming to Shaolin that one time, and then I was reminded of Ted one more time at Shaolin, so that's really interesting, and repeated those conversations later. And then the other interesting thing is I must have done some visionary slips where my friend Janet was filling me in, and she was telling me about Amelia Bentley. She's going to put me in touch with an old friend of mine, and she pretends to be his boyfriend, but she's not really, and she wants to, I don't know, she's a party planner, she wants to start a dog grooming business, and all this different stuff that, you know, kind of turned out to be true later. And so she also warned me, you know, like I was talking about Bill Lieb, you know, I like to say that Billy Lieb is a curly-Q, and she started getting really stern with me, like, don't go saying that to people, Jody, you know, you keep that private, you know. She was kind of like getting stern with me. I'm like, why are you talking to me like that, Janet? I said, Janet, am I in visionary state? And she goes, yes, you are. Yeah, I was in visionary state. I even caught her, I even know, I felt like it too, just because she should know that, you know, like, I felt like when I started talking about Bill Lieb and she got mad at me for calling him curly-Q, it just seemed a little out of character, and it didn't make sense why she would get so upset, you know, so it was kind of a funny point. At any rate, so yes, I think I had a couple of visionary slips there that I wasn't aware of, because what I was going to say, you know, so I made the decision to consider, well, at least to consider moving to Big Fork to live with Rosie, but she was only offering me to stay out in the trailer because Howard was still alive and he didn't want another person being in the house. So I thought about it quite a bit, and I think I even mentioned it to people that I'm thinking about going. So, anyways, that's why it's interesting that in 2006 I had a visionary slip where Roger Brockman, my Kumtas Silat instructor, he took me on a little truck ride, and we went to a visionary slip, and he showed me Big Fork, and he showed me Rosie's house. And then 2007, I don't think I really had any, you know, like 2007 and 8. That's when I went and tried to, you know, meet Bill Lieb again when they came as Frontline Assembly 2007. I relived half of a dream that I had in 2005, where the other half would come true later. So I mentioned that already. And I was also having a lot of severe flashbacks where I was getting more confused information, and I started wondering if maybe our new neighbor could be Bill Lieb, because there's this tall, skinny guy that was kind of sneaking in and out of his place. And it turns out that he was a private guy, and we got to know Jack eventually, which was such a nice resolve, you know, because we were like, who is this guy? We can never get him to stop and talk. And it turns out Jack, he just likes to sit in his house, and he likes to smoke meth, and he likes to watch porno. So you can imagine what Jack likes to be alone for, right? He's a very private guy. But we made friends with him, and it really, you know, it really felt like it resolved boundaries, you know, which is interesting because one of the next amazing things that are going to happen is before I go to the Lakota Festival, or I should say the Lakota Vision Quest, as I was contacted by Jesus, and they gave a good lecture about what you call spirit law, and it has a lot to do with dissolving boundaries, just like, you know, we had with Jack. We were wondering, who's the guy that lives next door? You know, he could be Bill Lieb for all we know, or he could be an undercover cop or something, and a lot of interesting things happened there before I went. Anyways, let me see, what's some of the other stuff there? So, like, okay, so, you know, 2007 and 8 is when I went back to see Bill Lieb, and I was, you know, thoroughly frustrated. I just feel like I don't understand. Well, I'm having all these visions, right, for somebody that's not interested in me. So I'm showing out the window because we're going to be driving by another good place to go swimming. So that's in front of us. We are in Lakeside. That's where you go to the lake at Lakeside as a swimmer. So that's another place to stop off. So, and anyways, the next place we're going to see you stop off, I won't be able to show you right out the window, but it'll be West Shore Park, which I love to go to as well. Now, I was really frustrated, you know. It's like I even had my friend John take me aside and tell me I should consider, you know, getting a brain scan and all this stuff, and that's where I'm just like getting sick of it all. And so meeting Elias is like, I need to go to Vision Quest because I'd read up on the Lakota people, and one of my favorite Indians is his Crazy Horse, you know, and he did a very informal Vision Quest because he was very desperate, so he kind of did it in a backwards way. That's why I love his Crazy Horse. He did everything in a backwards way, and he was considered a sacred clown. That's why they call it a Hayoka. So I feel like I can relate to the sacred clown, and I feel like I'm a little bit of one myself, so I really love hearing about his crazy horse either way. So that's why I wanted to go to the JodyVision quest. I didn't know they did not use psychedelics. I thought they were going to give me peyote or something, but that's a different tribe, right? So check this out. See, we're in the mountains. The mountains go right down into the lake. Yeah. You gotta be real careful on these roads now, because if you're not, it says 70, but if you're not going 80, the driver behind you is going to be up your tailpipe. Now, I'll show you out the window. So every one of these hills seem to have a mansion on it, right? They find a way to put a mansion on that sucker. Now, trying to think before we left. 2007 and 8, like, if anything, I was definitely having strong flashbacks. I had a lot of interesting dreams and reliving dreams. Whereas in 2009, I think, coming back from, I think in Arizona, I had a visionary slip and I was told about Amelia Bentley. And then after I got back, Janet, my roommate, told me about Amelia Bentley. And then in another video, I'd like to talk about what we call God, what we call Jesus. They came to visit me and we had a good conversation about putting things on spirit law. And so that's what happened, like after I came back from Arizona, I really felt like maybe some of the prayer and healing work we did helped to really open up my psyche and make me able to perceive this conversation. Because when I got back from Arizona, I had this conversation with what we call God and Jesus, and I want to tell it about later, because there's a lot of stuff that goes with that. And I felt like during that conversation, though, I felt like one of the things I asked for was, please give me a job I can do. Please give me some place I can live where I don't have to pay rent. I know that sounds kind of childish, but I want to be able to stop paying rent and just feel like I'm being taken care of and just get a break, And sure enough, that's kind of what happened when I came up to see Rosie. She let me live rent-free, and she didn't expect me to work a lot, and there was a time where I just didn't have to work at all. And that served as kind of a healing period for me. So anyways, wow, I just love this road, so I really wanted to share this road going south, because you really get a good point of view, like out the driver's window and stuff. Now, I think we had to go to, we had to go to another sweat lodge. So I went to Sweat Lodge and got permission to come to Vision Quest, and I was introduced to this lady named Stephanie. Stephanie's like half white, half Cherokee, short-haired lady. And so she wasn't interested in helping me, as she told me later. She's only doing what Uncle David asked her, because she's loyal to him and she wants to be helpful. So she got me ready. So I went over to her house and I stayed there a while, a few days, so I could get ready. So I had to have a special dress made, and then I had to make a bunch of prayer ties and do a little bit of learning about it, because normally when you do something like go to Vision Quest, you need to begin your preparation far in advance. And me, I was just like, I need to do Vision Quest, man, I don't know. So this is where you turn off to go swimming at West Shore. So it was really interesting being over at her house. I almost thought I saw somebody spying on us, and I thought I saw the cat looking out the window. But when I talked, I didn't feel like I could talk to her about it, because I could tell, she disapproves of any kind of conspiracy theory or anything like that. And I felt like, I was being watched. I was a little bit scared. And so I made it up to South Dakota. So people gave me a ride, and they were kind of scared the whole time, they were like, we got to try to get up here without anybody bothering us, So like when we stopped at the gas station and I wanted to get out to go pee and smoke a cigarette, the guy said, come on, hurry, we got to go quickly, So yeah, so he was also paranoid, kind of like my friend Elias was, about like the BIA and all that stuff, feds, or just bullies, you gotta watch watch out, when you're driving up to that area, that there could be, just, white people that hate Indians, So I went to my Vision Quest ceremony, and so I elected to go for 3 days, but I could only handle 1 day, and I felt like a lot of the other people there kind of looked at me like I did something wrong, Well, when I came down from the hill to talk to Uncle David, he said, you did the right thing, Jody. He said he knew I was running from something. I stayed one night and came down, and we were in that final sweat lodge, and he told me, Jody, when you go back to Denver, that's where you will receive blessing. And so going up to that Vision Quest, that's also a story in itself. And I may have had a visionary slip there where Elias told me, the reason we have a Vision Quest ceremony is that way we can get it to happen in a timely manner. Otherwise, you can go to visionary state at any given time. You could be at home, at work, or even driving, So it's not always convenient. So that's why we had the Vision Quest ceremony. Well, it didn't stop me. I still have visions anywhere I go anyways, right? So, yeah, it was kind of fun going to the Vision Quest as far as getting a further education. And it didn't really help me find resolve with my own personal issues of going to visionary state and being introduced to Bill Lieb all those years. So it didn't help me a whole lot with that issue, but it did give me an education on other aspects of areas of interest for me, like music and spirituality and how ceremony works. Because one thing Uncle David will say is everything is ceremony. Everything we do is some kind of a ceremony. So, if you go to a concert, actually, you're having kind of a ceremony. If you go to Kung Fu class, you're having kind of a ceremony. You have a birthday party, that's a little ceremony. So everything is ceremony. And, I got really good experience. We don't really want to share too much about, the ceremony, but I will just tell you, I know that when you go to the ceremony, that spirits come, man. There's like a lot of, so they like to stay in touch with their ancestors, So on one hand, we have our Creator, our Father in heaven, what we call in Christianity, they call the great-grandfather. So they also know that we all have one ancestor. We all have one ancestor. And another word you hear them using, the Wakanta Kashira, that's the great mystery. So you realize the great mystery is the great unknown. There's really something important going on in life, but it's above and beyond. It's like more than we can see, So we realize that what's going on in life is more than we can see. That's why it's the great mystery. But at the same time, we do realize that we all have one common ancestor. Anyways, I kind of got stranded up there in Pine Ridge, and I had to get a lift to someplace I could catch a shuttle home. So the closest place we could go was kind of a long drive. But Uncle David's son and daughter, I don't remember whose father there is, but those guys gave me a ride, and we had a good visit, And we've been staying in touch on Facebook ever since. So I'm really happy I made that connection, So anyways, I did make it back to Denver, and I stayed at John's for a little bit, and he was really stressed out because he fell in love with this girl named Lisa. And it seemed like he was getting so close, he was taking her on dates, he was showing an interest in getting her to hang out with him, but at some point she sort of just cut him off and didn't want to take his phone calls, and so he was really getting drunk and having a fit, and so I couldn't get any rest, I couldn't get any rest, and I couldn't get my act together, and then he started telling me, that I'm taking too long to find a job and all this type of stuff. But then I got Rosie on the phone, and she said, Jody, I just made a bunch of money. I'll buy you a bus ticket so you can come up here and live with me. And so, yeah, I got all my stuff in storage at that point. It was already in storage, and I was just waiting to get into my next apartment. But instead of that, I got a bus ticket to Big Fork, Montana, this is the way you come up from Missoula. So we transfer in Missoula, and then you come up this way. This is Highway 93. And so, of course, I was going the other way. We're going south right now, so we were going the other way. And it's such a beautiful trip. So my first look at the Flathead Valley would be coming up past here. Now, when you go down to the south end of south of the lake, they call that the Mission Valley because it's next to the Mission Mountains. The further south you go, the bigger and toothier those mountains get. So, you know, it's always fun when you catch go from the airport, you know, if you're going that way, and it's daylight, they'll fly right over the mountains so you can see what the tops look like as well. And so I was curious enough, I really enjoyed that. Now, just want to reflect a little bit on what I've been sharing with you guys here. It's that in 2005, that's when, you know, Rosie first invited me to come up here. And that's when I got that book, the Native American Prophecies. And then I kind of made a wish, and I like to think I made a wish that I would go to a vision quest, meet a Lakota medicine man, go to the vision quest, and it came true 4 years later. I made a wish and it came true, you guys. That's the important part. That wish, and another thing is 4 is like the number of magic to them. They love number 4 for everything. From the time I made the wish, it took me 4 years. And then I go up there, and I'm up on that hill. I had a really bad, you know, flash before I went there. I was getting ready, and I was hanging out in Boulder talking to my friend Scott. And I was sitting there, and I had a flash. I'm sitting on the hill, and I felt like somebody was coming behind me with a rifle, you know. So the reason I wanted to come down the hill is I felt like my life was in danger. It's not worth staying. It was probably not good for my body, you know. I really didn't know what I was asking for when I came there. But I felt like it's time to come down from this hill. It's like I said, as if I was choosing between life and death, you know. Sometimes that's what people are at when they go to a vision quest, is they're on the verge of life and death, and some people don't live, you know, especially if they're ill, you know. That's where they go to die, you know. But that's where I was at in my life, is how much do I want to live, you know. And so I felt like before I went up there and I had that, what you call vision, it wasn't a vision, it was a visit with Jesus and God. It was more like an awakening experience where I couldn't really see him. And I felt like that was one of the things I said, is that, you know what, I choose life. I choose to live and live. And so when I was up on that hill, I felt like that's the message I wanted to send us. You know, I'm going to come down from this hill because I choose to live and live, you know. So I'm going to choose life by coming down this hill. Because I felt like the one biggest threat I had on going to the Indians is I do not want, like, the U.S. government, you know, some type of black ops operation, you know, whatever you call that. You know, I wouldn't want those people to assassinate me or something, you know, because they don't like. So, you know, I'm probably just being paranoid by saying that. But it crossed my mind that the biggest threat of going around the Indians is you don't want to end up on the wrong end of the black ops and have them listing you as what you call a terrorist or any kind of bad name, you know. So yeah, so that was kind of scary, you know, like, even if it's incorrect, that I felt like, you know, I was warned heavily about going around Lakota people and possibly being under surveillance by the feds, you know. So anyways, that's why I came down early. But I was assured by Uncle David, the medicine man, that it's okay, I did the right thing. And when he said that you're going to go home to receive blessing, that's why I'm showing you this highway. This is my blessing that David assured me I would receive. And so as I'm sitting here going, I wonder if I should move to Denver or blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, well, what I really need to do is just make this my home base. You know, I can visit Denver, I can come back now. I can visit Denver and then I can come back. Now, there's some place down here to go swimming. And I'm kind of wondering if I could find it. I'm not sure, so. Alright, so I'm kind of looking out for it. If I don't see it, we'll just keep on going. And I'll show you the bottom end of the lake. I kind of wanted to go all the way to Polson and show you to the bottom. Woo-how. This is the blessing I received. So the last leg of my trip was coming up this way, and when my mom came up on the bus, she also came up this way, and we picked her up in Lakeside, which I showed you earlier. So this is called Big Arm because it's like the lake runs north and south. You know, it's kind of a oblong-shaped body of water, and Big Arm is a stretch of water that moves east and west. So it's the big arm of the lake. Woohoo! Yeah. But yeah, it's just interesting. I think that 2005 I made a wish to meet the Dakota medicine man. 4 years later, I make the trip, and he's the one that says, when I go back to Denver, I'm going to receive blessing. Now, something I mentioned is how when I was down in Arizona and came back, I was told about this lady named Amelia, and I wanted to just kind of touch on it briefly because I'm going to bring it up later as we get to that point in our life, in my life, where in 2010, I started going on Facebook and looking for Bill Lee, and I think she may have created a fake Facebook profile for him. And when I tried to connect with him there, then she sent me her friend request. And the funny thing is I started remembering who she is from the visionary state, and I thought she was trying to help me, so I was just kind of open and friendly to her at first, and I told her, I think I remember her from going down to Arizona, and that I thought she was a really great singer. And well, when I sent a letter to Bill Lee back in 2005, she was the girl I was afraid would receive the, like when he received the letter, I was kind of worried she might be the person he shares it with, And so this I thought was funny. In 2005, I had a dream where half of it came true at the concert, and that big guy did punch me in the head, and then the other half came true actually in 2011 when some people told me, about what was going on with Amelia, and that she was claiming to be pregnant back in 2005. That's the interesting thing, is I dreamt that there was Bill Lee had a new girlfriend who was pregnant. So I'd find out this person was really claiming to be pregnant back in 2005, and so I told my friend Teresa's the one that was talking about it to me. So I told Teresa, I said, I had a dream about that back in 2005, and so I told her, I went to Bill's house and I described what his house looked like in my dream, and she's like, oh my God, you're scaring me. She said, here, let me show you this. So she took me to Google Maps and showed me Bill's house, and I thought, well, why don't I send him a card or something just to test it out? And so I looked up the postcode, and the house was for sale. So I looked at what you call the blueprint, and it just really freaked me out that 2005 I dreamt about this house where the girlfriend, when he had that girlfriend and she was claiming to be pregnant, That's really interesting. So that's where, oh, this is the turn off to Hot Springs, you guys. I thought we were there already. But yeah, Hot Springs, if we want to go to Hot Springs, you turn right here and you go that way. It's really a special hot springs because there's only one other hot springs with the mineral content in the world, and that's in, I think, Baden. I don't know if it's Baden. If I'm saying that correctly, it was the only other place where you can go to a hot springs that has the kind of mineral content we do here. So yeah, so when so the first year in Big Fork, I remember sitting down and telling Rosie, I gotta put all this behind me, and I was crying the blues because I'm like, you know what, I'm never gonna see Bill Lee again, and all this stuff, and so that's why it was ironic that after about a year I went online, and sure enough, Amelia did put me in touch with an old friend of mine, as we put it, which would be Bill Lee, and so it was kind of inadvertent. Like, I don't know if it was meant to, like, if it was just karma, or if it was meant set up that way. I mean, it's really kind of confusing, but we're going to get into that later when I get up to that point in my timeline. But it's just interesting that, before I left Denver, I had two different visionary slips where they told me about Amelia Bentley, and I did connect with her, in fact, and it was just like I thought, that girl looks like she might be a bitch. Like, I just had that vibe when I saw her picture. I'm just thinking, that lady looks like she could be a really terrible bitch. And I bet if she gets this letter, she's probably going to want to respond to it. Like, I could tell she's got enough ego. And sure enough, she was the one that responded to that letter, not Bill. Well, except like he might have dropped a little hint to me when we all went to the club at the night of that concert. But that's something like, if you've been paying attention to my stories, that you'd know about. So that's why I just think it's interesting, you know. So down in Arizona, you know, so before we went to Vision Quest, down in Arizona, I had some important conversations and some good times, you know, that I can remember, you know. We drove over to the Grand Canyon, and I got to see just like by the visitor center and all that stuff, you know. So there was this lady named Francesca. She's claiming to be from Czechoslovakia. Like, I started hanging out with her, and then she was getting all bossy with me and stuff, you know. Like, so I got introduced to Janice, and we went up to her house, and like I kept trying to talk to Janice, and every single time I tried to bring up my visions and stuff, Janice would yell at me and be like, "Jody, you need to stop talking. You need to stop talking. You're talking too much." And so I almost felt like I was coming under attack, you know, in different ways. And so I was really worried about what happened when I get back to Colorado, you know. So I get back to Colorado, and my friend Janet was just acting really nasty towards me and wanted to throw me out. And that's when I had that Jesus experience. And, you know, maybe I'll go into that a little bit, you know. I was meditating with my cajones, and so I joined like a group of Buddhists that do what you call the Daimoku. It's Nichiren Shoshu Buddhism. So I was meditating with my cajones and out, you know. I had it in a kind of an inappropriate way. This is it, we're going. I've never been here before, so I think we should go here. And this is where we're gonna wrap it up, okay? I was thinking about taking you to Polson, but this seems to be a long enough trip, and I've been really wanting to come down here. Yes, I'm excited to come down here. Yeah. So coming up on a little check-in point, so I'll just say hi to them quickly. Okay, good. There's nobody to talk to or worry about, so I'm kind of wondering where we need to go. Ooh, all right, so I'm excited to come here for the first time. So day use area. So this is a campground. It's kind of all along this part of a big arm. So this is the big arm of the lake. Man, that water looks so nice and cool. You know what I like about this water? It's so clear and clean. So anyways, I was talking about how, you know, it felt like, you know, I was on kind of like a spiritual mission or something. Like, you know, I'm starting to really, you know, become activated and all this stuff. But at the same time, now I'm starting to feel threatened, you know, like when you start taking on spiritual warfare, for example. And then you're dealing with, it just seems like a lot of bad things can happen for no reason and all that type of stuff, you know. Like, I just had this really bad rash before I went down there, and then after I got back, I got bit by this spider that did something weird to me. So anyways, I'm gonna shut the car down right here. And I think we should get out and take a walk. First time down there, I'm so stoked. Right now, groovy. So I'm not alone. There's a few people hanging around here. Huh. All right. So yeah, I just came in here. This is where I might take a dip. It's kind of cool today. It's been in the 80s most of the time, but today the temperature dropped down quite a bit. And kind of breezy here too. I don't know, I felt like I was working up a sweat in the car. So anyways, feeling like I'm coming under attack, you know. Even Janet, you know, she is a little bit clairvoyant, you know, like part of what we bonded over was talking about, you know, psychic awareness and stuff. And so I was able to share my whole story about visionary state with her, And she was somebody that let me talk about it. But, you know, one thing she couldn't stand was that I kind of complained about it quite a bit too, that, you know, when I had the chance to meet Bill, there's always this lady named Jeannie there. And she seems like somebody that's just a sex partner, right? Like, not even anybody that significant. And the last 2 chances I had to talk to him, she was there to drag him away and ruin it. So that was just another thing, fueling my desire to get the heck out of Denver and go someplace different. I think this is a nice point of view. So, see that? Like I'm saying, the mountains go right into the lake, so those islands are really just little mountains sticking out of the lake. And so anyways, felt like Janet was starting to turn into my enemy, and so I was telling her, you know, I really got to live with somebody who supports me, not somebody that's mad at me, you know, and stuff like that, you know. So that's where I was saying that to Janet, and I feel like by moving up here to live with Rosie, I got exactly what I was saying to Janet. I needed to live with somebody who supports me, and somebody that's all for me, and that way, you know, this is somebody that's looking out for me, they're for me, and they're strong-minded. You know, so Rosie's a strong-minded person, and she's spiritually strong. Something like I like to call it is staying full-hearted. Easier said than done. Staying full-hearted. A lot of things challenge us that make us sad and depressed, and, you know, bitter and all that stuff. And that's why people are mean. You know, they don't stay full-hearted. They're not doing that type of work. You know, they're not at that level of work. You know, of staying full-hearted. So you're really lucky to find somebody who, you know, like, strives to achieve full-heartedness, at least strives to achieve full-heartedness, and not somebody that buys into, you know, spite and jealousy like Janet. You know, Janet was, she inherited this little car from her dad, and a police chase ended out in front of our apartment complex that I think the guy running from the cops hit a tree, and it just bounced off the tree and smashed into that little car. And she said she thought it was bad karma because she was jealous of me. She was jealous of me because she wanted to be with Elias, and she thought I was cheating. Like, I'm totally not attracted to Elias like that. And she was jealous that we had our little thing. And she was jealous that I got to go on the spiritual trip and that I was going to Vision Quest. So part of the reason she kicked me out is because she was jealous that I was going to Vision Quest, and she thought she deserved it more than I did. But strangely, she admitted it to me. That's so funny. And then after I moved out, and then she started to be like, don't you come around me or I'm going to get a restraining order. Trying to be a bitch and stuff. So anyways, you guys, I really wanted to share what I call, you know, my blessing, because when I went to Vision Quest, Uncle David said I'm going to receive blessing. And I really think he's right, you know, that it wasn't a coincidence. Ha! He knew it. Now I'm going to share one more time where I'm at. So this is Big Arm. I'm actually on a Native American reservation, and so that was kind of my thought in coming down here and talking about, you know, I went to a Lakota Vision Quest, which they've got one of the worst reservations in the country, right? It's desolate. You probably can't grow a lot of stuff there, you know. But here, we're at the top of the Flathead Reservation, which is like partly Salish Indians and maybe a couple other tribes that are represented here. But I was going to take you into Polson at some point, and it's a very nice small town at the south end of Flathead Lake. And when you're looking north, you see a lot of these little mountains sticking out of the water. So it's a really neat point of view compared to when you're at the north end. You don't see, you know, the mountains sticking out of the water. But I thought it'd be fun to share a little bit about some of the events leading up to me leaving Colorado to live in Montana. One of those was going to the Pine Ridge Reservation and making friends with the Lakota, participating in their Vision Quest, and learning about one of the worst reservations in the country. Well, here I am at probably one of the nicest reservations in the country, and it was only by accident. I think they were sending these Indians north, like they were supposed to go up where Browning is. So you go up and go on the other side of the mountains. The Browning Reservation, or I should say the Blackfeet Reservation, that's where Browning is also one of the worst reservations in the country. And so these Indians accidentally stopped here at the south end of the lake, and they thought that's where they were supposed to plant down. And so it's kind of ironic that I was able to visit the worst, probably the worst reservation, and here we are now visiting the best, probably the best, nicest reservation which was established by accident. So at any rate, you guys, I think I wanted to share a little bit of that sequence of, so 2005. I just think it's interesting that Rosie's the one that suggested I should go read about the Native Americans because they value the Visionaries Day, and they're also conscientious about, they have prophecies pertaining to earth changes, and just starting to see some of that stuff happening. Like our weather's pretty wonky right now. I think everybody knows the weather's kind of strange, and we're seeing a lot of more things than we've ever seen before in different ways. And that I made a wish, and then 4 years later I went to the Vision Quest. But I love the part where I did the Vision Quest. I kind of did my Vision Quest in a backwards way myself, and I still got respect and from the medicine man, and being told that I did the right thing. I didn't do anything wrong. And he said, a lot of people come here aren't spiritual people. He said, but Jody, you are a spiritual person. And before I left the reservation, he told me, I want you to come to Sweat Lodge tonight. And so I came to Sweat Lodge, and he said something like, he said, Jody, you're right. And I said, we medicine people need to stick together. And I never really said that to him. I never told him that out loud. So I felt like when he was saying to me, it seemed on an intuitive level, that I know they've been telling me I carry good medicine. So maybe I'm a type of a medicine person. Maybe I'm not, I don't have an honorary title or anything. But I felt like he was hinting that I am a type of a medicine person, and that he could read my mind, and he knew that I'm not ready to make a commitment and become a Lakota. I'm not committed to any one religion, but I'm willing to network with people that have traditions if they do, whether they're traditional or not, that since I've come up here, I met somebody who talks about being a hoop connector, and so that's what I'm going to get into a little bit later. So we used to come down to this reservation to hang out with a girl named Valdine, and we are part of Phoenix Fire. So the Phoenix Fire is a type of paradigm shifting community. We're ready to take on the new world, and not, necessarily let go of the old world, but learn from it. So we can learn from every tradition there is, because we're in a time like never before, where we never had the opportunity to learn from other traditions, like all the way around the world. And so that's what it's about, And so for the people who are tradition keepers, whether we're talking about the Indians or even the Shaolin people or anybody that's a tradition keeper, you're very important because you're keeping history. And something I learned too from traditional people is it gives the ancestors a way to recognize our ceremonies and our conversations. So there's something to tradition that I would like to share a little more about this visit and the education I get from there. So anyways, and then last thing, one of the last things Uncle David said before I left the reservation, I'm gonna go to Denver and receive blessing. You guys, this is my blessing. I would say moving down and living near this lake and living in these mountains, near these Rocky Mountains, you guys. So part of the reason I recontacted Rosie is I remembered her from my visions, and I'm not sure if I would have been less motivated, but when I got a hold of her in 2002, it wasn't easy to get her information. So I think I was really motivated to reconnect with her because I remembered her from the vision. So that's where I feel like there's just been a few instances where I've acted on those vision state connections and saw a good payout from it. At any rate, you guys, you have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.